Good afternoon, it's Liam here with your MU review for Manchester United's latest adventure in the Champions League group stages. We went to Moscow for the first time in about 5 or 6 years, can't remember, sometime around the turn of the decade, and came out with a 1-1 draw. Before the game I heard a lot of fans, myself included, saying that a draw wouldn't be the end of the world. Champions League group stage success is all about winning your home games, and we've still got two of those left out of our three, so I'm not worried about it, considering we had to come from a goal down, something that I think didn't really reflect the balance of the game all in all. But a draw was probably a fair result, but the fact that we had to come from a goal behind and managed to grit our teeth and get through it, I think speaks a lot again to the character that we've been building, and hopefully we can push on, beat them in the return leg in Manchester, because Moscow is of course a very difficult place to go as a football team, and obviously with Manchester City coming up on Sunday, it's going to be interesting to see how that long round trip for the players affects things. Hopefully it doesn't influence things too heavily. But getting into the review of the match, we were definitely slow starting. Louis van Gaal mentioned that in his post-match press conference. We really didn't get up to speed, and just the pace of the play was very slow, very similar to sort of reversing what we've been doing at the start of the season. It just looked like we were starting to get out of that, when we beat Everton 3-0, and you thought, okay, we can kick on now and keep this momentum going. And it is a bit of a stop-start thing, but I'll take into account the fact that it was a long trip. The conditions were somewhat hostile. It was very cold over there, and some of the players maybe didn't adjust very well to that. Hopefully, like I said, with the big game coming up on Sunday at home, hopefully we'll see us return back to those normal levels. But obviously the game got cracked wide open when CSKA Moscow got gifted a penalty by Anthony Martial, and as good of a player as he's been, this immature penalty, and him being a 19-year-old, he's my age, I can't really fault him for doing something immature. And Van Gaal, rightly so, said afterwards, he said it was a stupid decision, but Anthony Martial is the type of character who's not going to let that get him down, as proven by him really redeeming himself, scoring a wonderful goal in the second half. De Gea was really unlucky with the actual penalty. Eremenko had a decent penalty low to the keeper's right, and De Gea got right down there, and I was really disappointed to see it. Doumbia beat Jones into the box. He really reacted much quicker, and Dumbia's quick enough, without Phil Jones giving him a head start, because he's not paying attention. And it was a difficult finish for him, so fair play to Doumbia for getting it there, because it looked like De Gea had saved it and it was going to go right back to Eremenko, but De Gea tried to kick it to get it out wide, and very unluckily hit it straight into the path of Seydou Doumbia, who was lethal enough to put it away. And it wasn't really, we had 75% of the ball. I didn't think that we gave CSKA Moscow too many opportunities, so it was a real kick in the teeth to concede, especially early on, when we were dominating the ball, very much like PSV Eindhoven. It was very frustrating for that. We've had some troubles away in Europe, and maybe that can be chalked up to a lack of experience. In the last couple of years, we got a new team who hasn't played together in the competition before, and we've seen how that worked for Man City. But obviously with a club like United's pedigree, our fans know exactly how to get behind us, and I think that played just a big of a part in Moscow as it is at Old Trafford. I think that's what got us through the game against Wolfsburg, where I don't think the Man City's fans are particularly supportive. I saw some of the highlights of the City-Sevilla game, and they were almost just nervous. They weren't really getting behind the team. They were sort of just anxiously getting through the match, and I think the players feed off the energy of the crowd, and I don't think that really helps City at all. And I think that might be the reason that they do have these troubles in Europe consistently. I think United fans know how to get behind the team in a European game, because there's so much pressure on the players, and to really be that 12th man. And I think that we did it in Moscow just like we do it every week at Old Trafford, and not least of which against Wolfsburg, like I mentioned. But going into the half time, I was quite pessimistic. I was really worried. I went and had a shower and thought, okay, let's just hope for the best. But I really wasn't optimistic. I thought it looked like it was going to be a 1-0 game. We just didn't look like we had any penetration, but we were better in the second half. It was interesting to see him bring Fellaini on for Schweinsteiger. I thought Schweinsteiger played all right, but I suppose giving him 45 minutes and trying to change things up, it all worked into that favour. Jesse Lingard playing as well, something I haven't mentioned yet. Him starting over Juan Mata was an interesting decision, because Van Gaal gave me the impression in his pre-match press conference that he wasn't going to be resting players, and he can say that Lingard earned his spot over Mata, or maybe that it was tactical, but I mean, Juan Mata in the form he's been in, you can't really say that you're picking your full strength team with him not in it. But anyway, going back to the match, Anthony Martial, of course, redeemed himself, with a fantastically well-taken goal. It's his first goal in the Champions League ever, even for Monaco. He never got on the score sheet before, even though he played quite a few games. I think it was his 11th Champions League game. And, it was fantastically well taken. Really good ball by, I think it was Valencia who put the ball in. correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, anyone feels the need to, but I think it was Valencia who played a decent ball in, and Martial really found a good pocket of space, sort of 10 yards from goal, and it was a really, deft header to, sort of on the dive to kind of direct it so far in the corner, because Akinfeev is a top-notch keeper. He's been playing for Moscow for over a decade, and he's still not even 30 yet. He's much like a goalkeeper version of Wayne Rooney, or or even a David De Gea or Manuel Neuer, someone who's been at this top level for a very long time. And so he really needed to put it in, right in the corner, and by God did he put it in the corner, in off the post. When it first hit the post, I thought it was going to bounce back into Akinfeev's hands. I thought it was just so close, and then when I saw the net ripple, that was when I realised how good of a goal it really was. And fair play to him. He shows so much character for a 19-year-old. Anthony Martial is absolutely incredible at not letting anything, just kind of blocking things out, putting his blinders on and getting on with his game, because he's such an immensely talented footballer. It really is refreshing to see him just play without fear. That's something that Wayne Rooney, Lionel Messi, when they're in their younger days, Ronaldo even to an extent, these are the types of players who they kept probing, and they kept going forward, and they weren't afraid to take people on, even if they were 10 years older than them. You put Martin Skirtle on toast, you put Seamus Coleman on toast a couple of weeks ago. It's been a really good season for him so far, and it's just a fantastic goal. The substitute for Fellaini, it's funny that we did score an equaliser with a header after Fellaini came on, but I thought Fellaini was really disappointing. We didn't get much service, and I think that's why Wayne Rooney ultimately was quiet as well, is that the service really wasn't there today. And I think that's the sort of thing you need Juan Mata there for. Juan Mata and Ashley Young, those two really know how to whip a ball in, and if you're going to try and play that game to Fellaini, I feel like you need to have those two players complementing that, because if you have players like Lingard and Martial on the wings, you're not really playing that sort of dynamic crossing game. If Rooney's through the middle as well, you don't have too many people who can put a ball in. Marcus Rojo obviously showed a decent ball into Herrera at the weekend. Darmian, I haven't seen him do too many crazy things, but if you get Mata and Ashley Young on those wings and then put Fellaini in, that makes more sense to me. But with that being said, I think it was a good performance. Solid performance is really what I would say overall. And I'm glad that we've got 4 points, at this stage, and the group is very tight. I'm glad that, every team has won and lost a game. We were all on 3 points going into this week. So it was very nice to see that everyone's sort of tightly bunched together, because if you look at groups like the one that Zenit are in, where they've got 9 points from 3 games, and now it's pretty much, the other 3 teams in that group, which looked really open. I think Lyon are in there, Valencia might be in there as well. I don't really know, to be honest, but there are lots of teams who really thought they had a chance of getting through. And now that Zenit have just, practically put themselves in the second round already, that really raises the stakes for the rest of them, because it's 3 teams and 1 spot effectively remaining. Whereas in this group, you could sneak into second place on the final day, and I have full faith that one of these teams probably will, it will go down to the last day. Hopefully United can kind of put their noses out in front in these next 2 home games we've got against, CSKA and PSV. We've played them both away from home, haven't beaten either of them, but I think we've shown in both games that we are by far the better team, and hopefully we can go to these games at Old Trafford, get well up for it, get the crowd behind them, and get the 6 points that, if we get 10 points with a game to play, you'd fancy us to top the group, let alone qualify. So I'll be very happy with that. And best case scenario is that we've already qualified when we go to Wolfsburg on match day 6, because that has a real, I get shockingly traumatic flashbacks to Benfica in 2005, and FC Basel in 2012 or 2011 rather. When I think about those kind of away days on the last match day, we really need to get the job done before we go into those matches, and that means picking up points at home, which ultimately, in that most recent season we played when we didn't make it out of the group stages, we were drawing games at home against Basel and Benfica, and then we weren't picking up the points away from home either, and that was what sunk us in the end. So as far as the Champions League goes, I'm confident that we're gonna carry on and get into the next round, and I think getting back into the competition, getting to the next round is going to be a really good. It's a really big step. It means that we avoided the Europa League. We've kept in the competition. We've re-established ourselves in the competition, and anything after that's really a bonus. Obviously, depending on the draw, depending on our placement. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but if we top the group, we have a better chance of getting in an easier game. But that's not always the case. Arsenal came second and got Monaco last season and still went out, but that's another story. And so there really is, a lot of excitement around being in the Champions League. I love it, and I'm glad to see us, progressing at least, nicely, as Van Gaal is saying. We're going according to plan at the moment, so we'll see how it goes. Obviously, we've got the massive Manchester derby coming up on Sunday. I'm really excited for it. It's going to be kicking off at bright and early, about 8 o'clock in the morning here in North Carolina, so really geared up for that. Very nervous, obviously I always am, ever since City whacked us 6-1 a few years ago. I think that was the same season we went out of the Champions League group stage. A lot of trauma there, And when they whacked us 6-1 that season, that is the worst derby day I've ever experienced. And, every time, even, we lost 3-0 a couple of years ago under Moyes. It's humbling, and it's really, you never get a worse taste in your mouth, especially for a younger fan like me that doesn't really remember Liverpool's glory days. Man City are the most local threat. Or local and biggest threat that we faced in recent years, so it really does hit home when we lose to them. So I'm really hoping that we can go in the game and, at very minimum, don't lose. I don't want to lose our first home match of the season to City in the derby. That would be a really tough pill to swallow, especially after having bounced back against Everton last week. To lose to another one of our title rivals would be a real blow, especially at Old Trafford. So hopefully we can avoid defeat. Obviously, I'm very hopeful that we can get the 3 points. We demolished them last season, really, 4-2, and we probably could have had more in that game, and we showed a lot of spirit in that game to come from behind. They've not got Aguero or David Silva, and I've mentioned many times before, I believe, maybe not on the videos, but to my brother and to other people who I talk about United with. And that is that Manchester City's success depends on the spine of their team. The central 5 players that really make or break them are Joe Hart, Vincent Kompany, Yaya Toure, David Silva, and Sergio Aguero. And when even one of those players is missing, they don't look quite right. If Kompany's not in the defence, which he hasn't been for the last few weeks, although I've heard he is fit, so I do think he'll start on Sunday. But when he's not there, they're porous as any team in the league in the back. We've probably got a better defence than them when Kompany's not in it. But moving through the gears, if you look at players like David Silva and Sergio Aguero being out, that is the brunt of their attacking force. Obviously, you'd expect to see players like Raheem Sterling, Kevin De Bruyne, they're a stacked team, so they're still going to have a hell of a threat. But with that being said, I do think that without those players, they're at least a lot of their firepower is diminished, and we're going in with a pretty much full strength squad, with the exceptions of our long-term absentee Luke Shaw. So I'm really looking forward to the game. I've run a bit long on this one. I had a lot to say. I'm really excited about United being in Europe this season, and obviously really amped for Sunday's game. But looking forward to it. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that nonsense. We've been through this before. I don't need to repeat myself. But thanks for watching, and see you next time.